on this island, you'll not find love. Only sleepless nights. I'm just a ghost of the man I was, too weary to fight.
Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Beard podcast, a podcast dedicated to discovering true masculinity. Today we have a really special guest with us, a guy that has known all of us since we were knee-high to a grasshopper.
Middle schoolers, I think.
Yeah, middle schoolers. Yeah. Dave Khaliqi. Hey, welcome, man.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah. First thing we always start with is how's everybody doing? Mike, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. I'm glad we got all this set up. It's been a while since we've actually done an interview, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is interesting because I think I was in 7th grade and you were my science teacher.
Yep.
First year. Yeah. So
science, middle school science,
middle school. It's for me. You were my homeroom teacher,
right.
7th grade. And for me, that was a crazy year because I went from homeschool. You were the first teacher outside of my mom.
That's right.
I was homeschooled, and then you were my first.
Yeah.
I remember
and shoot, man, like I had you multiple times throughout high school as a teacher, which was really cool. And then kind of culminated in I was finishing my undergrad, and you remember we're at the graduation ceremony, walking out of the tunnel. I look over and I see you, and we high five. And that actually made it onto the UCCS graduation. Like,
did it really?
It did. Yeah.
Funny.
I was like, I'll have to find it and send it
I'd
to
love
you.
To see that.
It was, for me, it was like one of those really full circle moments of, I started like my educational journey with you and then kind of like completed it through college with you. So that was such a, for me, really cool moment.
That's cool. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So Dave, how are you doing, bud?
Well, I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
It's fun to see you guys doing your thing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're in education, you have no idea what like the outcome, what the impact is. Like it's totally just you do. So it's really, really fun to see you guys doing this, really taking on some really cool questions. So you guys, your feed, I'm on YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
And so your feed started coming through. I was like, this is really cool. This is some really cool conversations that you're having. And so I reached out to you guys, and it was like in the span of like an hour, we got this thing set up. So
it was that came through, and I was like, oh shoot, yeah, we have to do this. And it's one of those things where we really are hoping to have like a diverse group of people on here. People we agree with, people we disagree with, and man, I'm just so excited to have you here, man. It's been a while since you and I have even sat down and talked, I'm excited to see what's new, what's going on.
Yeah.
But
another piece, you helped me build my house.
I did. A bunch of us. It was somehow you didn't. It's probably good I didn't do anything that was really foundational. No, it was that's shoot. I completely spaced that, but that's and shoot, like your daughters and my sister grew up together.
Still good friends.
Still good friends. Yeah. So
we go way back.
It's fair. Yeah, it's fair to say that our lives have been intertwined in so many different ways. And I think I don't know, for me, it's always fascinating to see the journeys that people kind of end up on and how people are linked. As a kid, you go, you see you have your teachers and you're like, oh, these are cool people or these are terrible people or whatever you think about them, but they're like, oh, they're adults.
Yeah.
Right. And then you become an adult and all of a sudden, all of that gap, that distance, that goes away.
Yeah.
Right. And you essentially at some point become peers.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like it's going to be our 20th high school reunions next year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about. Yeah. Nuts. But you look back and you're like, holy cow, like that, while it feels so long ago, it doesn't feel that long ago. Yeah. But it's fun to like go back and, like Mike was asking you, do I call you Mr. Khaliqi? Do I call you Dave? But no, I'm just all that to say, I really appreciate like us being able to do this.
Yeah,
right.
Same.
So Dave, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in education my whole career. So taught taught in Western Colorado, South America, then landed at TCA for 13 years, I think.
13?
Yeah. Started at the beginning of TCA, which is pretty cool because I mean, now it's like nationally recognized school. Like it's no joke. Still have friends, still have, colleagues there that are still teaching there. So Reed and Knuth and all those guys. So then jumped over to higher ed, and that's where we saw each other. I got to do my Ph.D. there, which was actually a real process. That'll come out in my story probably a little bit as we talk.
Okay.
Because that's always been like a super big idol for me.
Has it been?
Yeah. I had to really get my thinking in line and get my thinking straight to do it for the right reasons, as opposed to, 3 letters after your name, which is a pretty terrible reason to do something, right?
I agree with that.
So, but I was able to do that with a pretty good mindset, had a good time doing it. So got my doctorate in kind of data analytics, educational research. Thought I'd like to do higher ed. Higher ed's a hard place to get a gig. So,
yes, it is.
So jumped over back to K-12 in Colorado Springs School District 11 here in town. And I run the data and analytics team for the district.
That's cool.
Yeah, get to do a bunch of number crunching and answering questions in ways that people aren't always able to answer for themselves. Yeah. So it's I feel very blessed to be there.
That's cool.
Because my team, the team that I get to lead, I feel like we are using data in very humane ways. It's not always like when you think about a mean and a standard deviation, it's not a warm and fuzzy feeling, right? And especially among educators, it's kind of been a weapon.
Absolutely.
And so taking on a goal to not make it a weapon, make it a tool. There's one way to know your students. There are other ways to know it as well. So let's just do this together.
Practically, what does that look like? Like, I'm trying to picture that because I immediately go test scores, right? Like
that's part of it. That's a big part of it. That is a big part of it because that's what the state expects. So we have these state mandated pieces that are test scores.
Of course.
But we work primarily with principals and then their teams of lead teachers.
Okay.
To take their test scores, and some test scores are more valuable than others. Right. So the state test score, not the most helpful thing, right? Because it's like it's just for all different reasons. I could talk for hours about this. I will spare you.
Okay.
But we have some other ways of like helping teams in schools really kind of create a breadcrumb trail, waypoints. To see how their students are doing.
That's good.
And in a district like D11, there's high poverty rates.
Yep.
We have a fair amount of homeless families.
Yep.
We have a big influx of new to the country families. And it's, within just my calling, I feel like honored to be able to give those families a voice in some way.
That's cool.
To say, hey, we really need to watch what we're doing with these families because they're not going to be speaking up for themselves.
Yeah, of course.
And so we really monitor we call them our subpopulations, our different groups of families.
Yeah.
To be, doing serving them well.
That's good.
It's cool. Yeah, it's all kind of a big wraparound of my own story. So Khaliqi, Khaliqi.
Yeah, we would know. Yeah.
It's not a sick baby, but it's my dad. My dad immigrated from Afghanistan and he became a citizen in 1974. So I'm like a first generation immigrant. And I did not grow up Afghan. It's very typical for this to happen. Like your dad comes over, he's like, we're American now. And we're doing McDonald's, we're doing the whole deal. So that's how I grew up, but it still has really infused, I think all of me and my siblings, I have a brother and a sister, with this notion of like, being aware of the, the more vulnerable in our population, like giving, like the story of our country, which is so cool. Like, does it happen well all the time? Absolutely not. There's problems. Right. But the core story of our problem is that some dude can come from Afghanistan, get a great job. Yep. And his one son ends up an actual helpful doctor, medical doctor. The other son ends up with less than helpful, but anyway, Ph.D. I mean, it's just, that's the story, right? Yeah. And you can come from anywhere and put in that work and do your thing. Yeah. And good things happen. And I'm just, it hurts me to hear that narrative being like undermined in some ways in our culture. I think it kind of goes back to what you guys are talking about with what does it mean to be a man and lead your family in very difficult circumstances. I mean, absolutely. I mean, as an immigrant, you come and you leave everything. Like you literally leave everything and you start over. Yeah. And so that was the model for me, was how do you do that? I mean, there's no excuses. Like you do what you need to do.
That's hard.
And here we are. So
the no excuses that's tough.
Yeah.
You know, being a dad, I understand that no excuses component, right?
Yeah.
Like when I'm enforcing that for my kids,
right?
I'm like, no excuses. But at the same time, when I maybe hold up the mirror to myself and go, well, no, hold on a second, man.
Yeah.
Like, are there actually some excuses? Like
Yeah.
for you, what is that? Because I think that there has to be a component of grace
Absolutely
throughout that, right? Like, so what is that? I mean, maybe speak about that in your own story.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know you have a diverse audience, so I don't know where people are at, like faith journey, faith journey. It's all fine. But like I anchor into a heritage. So my dad actually grew up Muslim.
Okay.
He converted to Christianity in graduate school.
Really?
Got married to my mom, who was actually a Westerner. She grew up in Colorado.
Okay.
And so I grew up in this really interesting dynamic space of what faith is. And it was not typical. Like my dad was very, very skeptical because he grew up a very, very strict Muslim. So he was very skeptical of like kind of these claims of like, you know, these very kind of legalistic claims.
Yeah.
Which happen in any
religion.
faith tradition.
Yep.
So he was constantly questioning these, and he would do that with us. He would, why do you think that? What evidence do you like? I think it landed me in the job I have now, right? So like, what evidence
Here's all the
do you
evidence,
have?
Dad. I have all the data.
Yeah, it got annoying as a teenager, but now it's kind of fun to look back on. And like he was just, I mean, it's probably clear how much he is huge influence in my life.
Yeah.
He passed in 2019, but my favorite picture is when I got my Ph.D. Like I was in my robes and he's, you know, he was there. That's and cool. It was like really cool. So kind of your first full circle story.
Yeah.
That was that.
That's cool.
Anyway, so just like these decisions are yours to make.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to move into this space with both focus, vision, and grace.
Yeah.
You know, to understand that mistake, like the notion of a mistake has radically changed in my mind. A mistake, it might have serious consequences.
Yeah.
I don't want to demean that, but a mistake is an opportunity to examine a choice with under like the real light.
Yeah.
Like there's no hypothetical here, right?
Yeah.
So as we start to like kind of look at that and examine that, we take our mistakes and we either like when we do the no excuses thing, like, I'm going to man up, I'm no excuses, right? That's going to move us without that grace that you mentioned. It's going to move us into either being perfectionism, most likely shame.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Because I'm going to hide. Like I can't live up to this standard, so I'm going to hide it.
Yeah.
And so through that process, like through my story and just the relationship, you know, that I have with both my wife and then just my faith, I got connected with a group of guys in kind of a therapy group.
Yeah.
Right? It's really a spiritual formation group.
Yeah.
And understood like these decisions that the way that I'm thinking and the processes that I'm using to think need to be examined.
Yeah.
Right? Clearly that's kind of an obvious statement.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like?
Sure.
And so to take that and then to start taking every one of those decisions and putting it under a microscope.
Yeah.
Because what came out of that, and now I work with a ministry, and it's for anybody, but it kind of comes from the fact that the Bible has something to say to us.
Yeah.
Whether you're a Christian or not, it has something to say.
Yep.
So the core there is that our beliefs are going to drive our actions.
Yep.
And our core longings are going to drive our beliefs.
Mm.
And even if I say I believe this particular thing, like there's no excuses. Or, you know, in the religious world, like God is totally for me.
Right.
I might say those things.
Right.
And I might say that's my belief.
Yeah.
But what are my actions actually saying? Right.
Mm.
I come down hard on somebody. I come down hard on my kid. Right.
Yeah.
No, going back to the no excuses thing. I come down hard on them. But then when I'm by myself, what's happening? Right? When nobody's watching.
Right.
I say, I'm religious and God is totally for me.
Right.
But I'm constantly scanning every relationship that I have to make sure I'm not being disrespected, or I'm being respected, or I'm at the front of that conversation, or I'm the funniest guy in the room,
Sure.
or I'm the smartest guy in the room. That was mine.
Yep.
I want to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yep.
It's the Ph.D. thing, right?
Right.
Those actions are showing me that my beliefs are false, right? So I can say these things and I could wish that they're true, but my beliefs are not lining up to my my actions are lining up to my beliefs,
right,
completely. But my stated beliefs are not lining up. And so to now take that, okay, this is what happened. What was my belief in doing that? Right. So when I lost it, I had a challenging relationship with my youngest son, and I would lose it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would lose it. And when I really started to dial that back, right, there were challenging dynamics all around. But when I really started to dial that back, it was, you're making me look bad.
Ooh.
Right. And so in church, right, which can make an idol of being a father, being the good father.
Yep.
Right. Good fathers do this, good fathers do that, and then your kids do this, and your kids do that, and they go to youth group, and they don't steal knives, they don't run away, they don't end up in the back of a police car. Mine did, right? So what do you do with that, right? So then just being able to say, I made my own kid an idol, and I'm expecting things from that kid that he should never have to deliver and can't ever deliver, and then I'm freaking out on him when he doesn't.
Yeah.
Did he do stupid things? Absolutely. Did he need to be disciplined? For sure. Right. But that wasn't what was this. That's not what this was about. Like,
interesting.
You know, it was me losing my crap on a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Because they're making me look bad.
Yeah.
So now that can either lead me to self-reflection or shame.
Right. Right.
I'm a piece of crap. I'm a terrible father.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to all sorts of then behaviors that help me either forget that or prove that it's not true. Right?
Yeah.
So plenty of options, right? Plenty of options. Shame is a complete dead end, right? Because what it says is, guilt is, I handled this really wrong. Yeah. I handled this wrong. I need to make amends.
Yeah.
I apologize to my kid. We set up some ways of doing things better. That's guilt. That can be healthy. Guilt without not addressing guilt, I believe, moves into shame, and it can move pretty quickly. And shame says you are bad. Guilt is you did something bad. Shame is a value, right?
Yeah,
that's you are worthless. You are this or that, and so you go into hiding, and you go into like medicating. Yeah. So porn, adultery, whatever. It could be working. It could be anything, but that's a hiding. So now let's say. So now I can go back, work my belief backwards and say, what was I really trying to get? Right. The lie I was believing was that my value is based in my kid's behavior. Yeah. There's plenty of messages out there to tell me that's the case. Yep. Right? Yep. I don't want to dog on church too much, but it's an easy target sometimes because I go to a men's retreat and it's like, hey, this is what good kids do. Or,
my kid's the Nobel laureate.
Exactly. Or like they go to 4 youth groups every night. And you're like, oh God, I'm such a loser. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen this meme, or I don't know, it's not a meme, but it's like a reel or something. It's like comparing, I need to find it again because I just saw once. It's comparing like Mother's Day in church to Father's Day in church. Oh, and Mother's Day is like, you are a beautiful creation. Yeah. You're a beautiful woman of God. Yeah. It's like awesome. They get roses. Yeah. Father's Day, it's, you are not doing what God called you. Like it's totally like, rah, rah. Yeah. Man up. Which is not fun. It's funny because it's so close to the truth. Anyway, so like really understanding, I have no idea where I was going with that, but
that's all right.
Like really dialing that back to say what. So this was the belief. My value is based in what my kids do. Yep. My value is based in how my wife looks, right? What she does, how much money I have. Like I could substitute any infinite number of things into that equation. In this case, it was just my kid was freaking out, right? Interesting. In very bold and public ways. Sure. Yeah. So now, like my belief system, my beliefs were not lining up, right? I said, no, my value is in God. My value is in Christ. Whatever language you want to use, right? Yeah. If you're more of the stoic route, right? Yeah. I can manage. I can manage myself. I can I carry what I have control over.
Right.
And I put down the rest. Right. Yep. Whatever philosophy you want to plug in there.
Yeah.
When I lost my crap with a 12-year-old kid and I mean, like it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. Like I was doing none of those things.
Right.
And my beliefs were off in the weeds of what do I truly believe? That my value is totally in the hands of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty bad, which is not great. Right?
Yeah. All your values. Yeah. Being held by how good your son does.
Yes.
Interesting. So it makes me think about, when we think about that concept, what does that like if you look around in society, right? And we talk about, we're searching for true masculinity here.
Mm-hmm.
What does that, where does shame impact men from your estimation? Like, what are you seeing how shame impacts men in society now?
Mm-hmm.
Or how is it being weaponized or not?
Those are two conversations right there.
Yeah.
So where it's being used, I'll hold off on the weaponized part first.
Yeah.
Where it's being used is that we will check out. And I think that there were lots of ways for men to check out for a long time.
Yep.
Right. We can be emotionally distant. We can be uninvolved.
Yep.
We can hide behind work. We can, the old classic 50s hide behind the newspaper, right? Yeah. Whatever. That's all checking out. Now now it's on steroids. Right? We can be checked out in any number of ways.
Yep.
And just be scrolling. We can be
video games, sports.
Yeah, any kind of that.
Man.
So checking out and removing ourselves from relationships, right? Which our society, Western affluent society, is built around now.
Right.
Pulling away from relationships. And I'm actually really encouraged by your generation and my kids' generation. So especially my daughter's generation. So kind of end of yours and Z and so on. They're starting to see that and starting to pull out of that to get into authentic relationship again. But yeah, pulling myself out of those authentic relationships, which then it's not many steps to the next basket, which is putting myself into inauthentic relationships.
Sure.
Which I would propose is the core notion around pornography use. Because I can get an image of a relationship that I desire without any commitment and without any requirement of me.
Interesting.
Immediately, right? It's going to require a lot of me over the long term.
Yep.
Right? Because it's an addiction of sorts, but it doesn't require anything of me when I'm getting the exact thing that I'm hoping for from a relationship.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not too long before we can filter into lots of different ways of disconnection and isolation.
Interesting.
And then ultimately we're not living up to that ideal.
Right.
Whether it's I'm going to say stoicism a lot because we were just talking about the art of manliness, right? And he's like big into stoicism.
Yes,
and there's a lot of parallels, right? So I mean, the stoic thing is like you live in indifference, right? And you pick up the things that you can, you change the things you can, you leave the things that you can. It's really kind of a healthy philosophy. I mean, in Christian faith and tradition, right? You let go, you release control.
Yep.
And let God work in the things that you have control over, which is changing yourself.
Right.
So many parallels. So now if I'm removed from relationship, I have nobody speaking into my life. I have other options to distract myself.
Yep.
Now I'm hosed. I'm completely hosed because there's nothing moving me into self-reflection,
right,
into discipline, into a place where I can confess. Right?
Interesting.
I mean, we think of confession is kind of like this sometimes, especially as Protestants, right? I think Catholics have this right. That confession as a sacrament being built into their whole process is a powerful thing.
I think so too.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we just don't have that.
No.
And if we do, without relation, like in healthy relationships, we can.
Yeah.
But we generally don't, and then we just move into shame and hiding.
Yeah.
So then you talk about the weaponization of it, and there's a whole, I mean, I know this is a topic that you guys have talked about a lot, and there's all sorts of ways to talk about the role of masculinity in a Western culture.
Yeah.
And not a lot of it is healthy.
Do you think that where do you think the checkout started for guys? Like historically, because I guess I have some thoughts on that, but I'd be curious to see, like, because I feel like if you go back 150 years, right, guys have had the opportunity to check out, but when you're running a ranch, when you are, when it's just you and your family on the prairie, like, there's not really an option to check out. And it's interesting. I'm reading a book right now called The Pursuit of Happiness. And it really, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Is that Haidt?
No, it's Jeff. Oh, shoot.
That's okay.
Anyway, so the author is examining specifically the idea of the pursuit of happiness and how that, like, what was really meant by our founding fathers in the pursuit of happiness. And so he's going through all the founding fathers, Jefferson, Franklin, all of the ones you don't hear about, and really kind of documenting their own ideas around what they thought the pursuit of happiness was. And a lot of it had to do with virtue. You mentioned Stoicism. Cicero and all of those guys had huge impacts on our founding fathers and what they thought the pursuit of happiness was. And what their definition of the pursuit of happiness, at least from what I've read so far, is the freedom to pursue virtue, not pursue this like frivolous, like whatever makes me feel good, but it was to pursue virtue. And so I say all that to go, do you think that there's a time we can look back to and go, shoot, we stopped doing that? I don't know. Like, do you, what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. Your question, like, when did we start checking out? I think I've been blown away. Okay. So I'm a biologist, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be honest. I have struggled as a Christian with the first few chapters of the Bible. Right?
Sure.
I have, that's a whole nother podcast, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I have been, if just allow me the moment to say, if we look at this as a metaphor, right? For just human existence in general.
Oh man.
I would propose that the first page of that book is when males checked out. Because what was Adam's role in that story?
Yeah, he was like,
bro, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, there's an apple. Weird. Where did that come from?
She did it. And it was even like, he was even blaming God, right? She did it, the woman who gave you.
It's your fault.
I don't know what the overarching metaphysics of this is.
Sure.
But from the very beginning, there's been a hardwired default mode.
Interesting.
Right, in the male brain to default and to step away.
That's a good point.
Interesting.
That's a great point.
And that's kind of the story from there forward, right?
That's the genesis of this.
Very good. It's the creation.
Sorry, guys, I couldn't help myself.
Oh man, there's so much in that book that's crazy.
Oh, absolutely.
The chaos. The chaos. Anyway, but yeah, so that was the first that was one of the first interactions between men and women.
Oh man, so we've always been doing this.
I would propose we always have. I would go back to your point, though, to say, to agree with you in the fact of there have been times and there are situations where you are forced into connecting because you have to. Yeah. Right. But I'm more and more skeptical of claims of it's never been this bad, or there were days when it was easier.
Interesting.
Right?
Okay.
I don't think that's true. There are ways that we can disconnect differently now.
Yes. Well, there's probably a lot more ways.
Yeah, a lot more ways. And they're probably more entertaining, right? Because disconnecting on the ranch, you're going to go sit in the field and just kind of do your
contemplate.
Like, I can disconnect for hours and be entertained. That's dangerous. That's a dangerous proposition. But anyway, so I would say that, we have always had this default mode. And so now when you talk about virtue and the freedom to pursue virtue. Yeah. So I'm geeking out now on kind of, so Thomas Aquinas talked about this a lot, right? The notion of accrued virtue based on, and he was coming from again, faith, virtue coming from non-contingent sources, right? Okay. So God being, if we go back and claim authority, that authority is almost always contingent on another authority.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. It has to come from somewhere.
And that's what he uses as his argument for a deistic argument for God. So God being the ultimate non-contingent contingency is what he talks about.
Okay.
But accruing virtue that becomes then habit, super stoic, right?
Yes.
He was one of the first. Actually, Justin was like the first, but he was the one to really like codify bringing. You guys are big Aristotelians too, I think. Swantek's not here, but
Matt likes to bring up Aristotle.
He's always quoting
I have
Aristotle.
a bingo card of things that we all mention. So
So I'm gonna throw in Lord of the Rings too somewhere in here.
Yeah.
You guys are big Aristotelians.
Yes.
So he brings together this Aristotelian Platonic kind of notion with this accrued virtue kind of notion from God. So being able to live a life that accrues virtue over time, that becomes habit, that becomes behavior.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so now if you take that in the context now of what we understand with like brain science.
Yes.
Like it's fascinating.
Yes.
So like Jonathan Haidt talks about this. I don't know if you've read Daniel Kahneman. So Thinking Fast and Slow. So he talks about it. He talks about a system, a cognitive system where we take in information, and that's our fast side, right? And we process it based on our experiences, based on all these different pieces, subliminally. And then in an ideal state, we take that and then hand it over to the rational side. Right. And we make ideas about it. We put words to it. We put action to it. We think about it. We explain it. Where the danger becomes is we take everything into that fast side and never hand it over to the slow side. Because we have never really disciplined our mind to do that. So let's say that I'll go back to my less than shining parental example, right? So my son was misbehaving, making bad decisions, really, really, truly bad decisions. And my fast side interpreted that in a certain way, right? And that was interpreted because of my own story, right? My own story was, part of my story was, I was totally like free range. Like, I mean, I had no parental input. like I was on my own. Fortunately, there was no internet. Thank God. And I grew up in a small town where you couldn't get away with much. So those are two very, very big blessings in my life. But I interpreted that to be like, I'm on my own. I need to impress people to get anything I need. I need to be the smartest guy in the room, blah, blah, blah. Right. So it's funny because you can have such a powerful relationship with a parent, but you can also acknowledge that, they dropped the ball in pretty significant ways. In some ways. So that's the process of maturity. Right. So I have all these belief systems running around on my fast side. Like, it's up to you. Nobody's watching out for you. You got to make this work. Like, people are watching, and if you mess this up, they're going to think badly of you and everybody else. That's what's running. That's my operating system on the fast side. I get this thing where my kid is in a backseat of a police car. What's that going to trigger? I mean, that like sends that into overdrive. Right. If I have not come to wrestle with that false belief, virtue, prior to that happening, there's not going to be an easy way for me to hand it over to say, no, bad decision. We'll work through it. Here's what I can control now. Here's what we'll do next. Right. And not freak out on my kid. So accruing that virtue that becomes habit allows me to take all of that input, regardless of my own story, and the driving, screaming narrative, you're worthless, you're everything depends on you.
From the shame side.
It's from the shame side. From my shame side. It's screaming in your head, and you say, no, that's not the truth. Here's the truth. You hand it over to the left side, the rational side. Here's the truth. This is not great. This pretty much sucks. This is a messed up situation. However, this is not a reflection of me. This is not the end of the story. This is an opportunity for my kid to learn something. All these different truths that if I don't hand it over, I'd never get to. And so now I am on my kid's case. I don't forgive. I could lead to abuse. I'm ashamed to say I have no problem seeing how I could lead to abuse. Right. Definitely leads to isolation. Very often marriage gets torn apart by a difficult child like this.
Absolutely.
Because now I take it out on my wife. right? Page 1,
Yep.
right? All these different pieces, and because I could never hand it over, right? And the virtue of this is to take the truth and to say, okay, regardless of what everything my head is telling me and reality is telling me, this is the truth, and I'm going to live there.
Man, and as you point that out, like that's where shame has such an impact on everything, right? Like that really messes up your perception of reality.
Yep.
Because you're like, oh, I'm a screw up. And if I'm a screw up, then my kid's a screw up and I have to fix that.
Yes, that's such a good point.
Like I can't, that can't happen. So I have to fix it. How do I fix it? Well, I guess I'm hard on him. And it's interesting as you talk, like I relate a lot to it because, you know, so some of my story, like I was divorced at 24 and, you know, remarried at 20, I think it was 26 or 27, 26, 27. And, you know, my middle, my wife's first, he's a tough kid. Like he's the kind of kid that, the word stubborn is meant for, right? Like that's who they were thinking of when they defined that word. It was my son, and trying to like it's only been probably within the last year or two where I've started to slow down and go, okay, I can separate like what he's doing from the appropriate way I need to handle that. The way he actually needs me to handle that. We've kind of started with a definition that we're kind of working from around masculinity, and that's strength held under control, wielded with purpose and service to God for the protection of the good, the beautiful, and the true. And when I think about like the idea of strength held under control, like to me, when we first started talking about this podcast, like that was where I started. Strength under control. And I think about the situations that you found yourself in, that I find myself in. And it's like, that's an opportunity for us guys to show what true masculinity is. Like, hey, I can reject all the noise. I can take the emotion and I can separate that from the things that need to happen. And you know, personally, I think this is where guys are gifted. I think guys are gifted to be able to go, I can compartmentalize these things. Right. And that's not to say that some women can't. I just think that guys are more naturally gifted towards that.
Sure.
And it's in those instances where our kids need to see us, or our loved ones, or our employees, or whoever it is that we're interacting with. They need to see that, oh, like to me, being a man is very much grounded in the waves are crashing. I'm not reacting. I am able to sit here and be that solid pillar that is taking the crashing waves and that people can depend on and that people can base things on. Like to me, that's what masculinity is. So I don't know, man, like as I hear what you're saying, like that is something I think our culture struggles with. This idea I have to react.
Yes.
I have to react.
Oh my goodness.
Like what
it's a virtue. It's a virtue. It's a virtue to react.
Like how it's like now you're measured on how well you mic drop. Right? Like that's the big, I don't know, to me I see that and you know, part of me goes, yeah, that's awesome. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, what did you accomplish?
Yeah. Well, there's a reason we say it's awesome, because we have neural pathways that dig it. I mean, they light up. Like when we see a good when we see a good mic drop or a good diss, or just like totally shut down, like like dopamine hits and lights up, and we're good. We got it, right. Going back to like being able to compartmentalize, like the gifts of masculinity, I think can be, the features can become bugs. As well.
Absolutely.
Because if I don't ever take the time to think and process through, like there are absolute times that what you described has to be the situation.
Yep.
I mean, and I want to send out a huge shout out to the guys who do that on a daily basis, have to do that on a daily basis in their job for the sake of us, right? And for the sake of like communities.
Yep.
The ones that are doing it well, take the time then to step back and say, what did I feel?
Good point.
Like what was happening there?
Point.
Right? Because that's going to accrue.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be, I mean, that operating system is going to pick up all those downloads, right? And if we never take the time to dump that and to say, okay, what was I feeling?
Right.
What's my belief? What's my behavior with that? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do I want to do immediately?
Yeah.
And then what do I really want to do? If I'm living in true belief about who I am, who God is, or who my higher power is, or what my philosophy is, and then live out of that true belief, what do I see myself doing in that case? Right? And so then when you said like, we live with such noise, and I do think this is one thing that is different.
Yeah.
That makes this harder for us.
Yeah.
Is that we're so stinking noisy, constant noise. And this is kind of Aquinas, and then later this requires separating ourselves from the noise on a regular basis. Yeah. So I just finished a book, Tyler Stanton. I would really recommend it if you come, for listeners that come from like a Christian tradition, but he, praying like monks, living like fools.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
So good. And he talks about just creating a rule of life, basically.
Yeah.
And this is including then, okay, how am I going to build in solitude and silence into my existence?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Could be on a daily basis, could be on a monthly basis, could be like daily basis, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever you can do.
Yeah.
Whatever you have an 80% chance of being successful at, that's your goal.
Do it.
If it's a minute, it's a minute.
Yeah.
But then maybe it could be half a day, twice a year.
Yep.
Right? Building in these disciplined times that allow us to really connect with our beliefs.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Because our beliefs are the feeling drives the belief, drives the longing that I have with my kid is a positive one, right? I want connection.
Yep.
I want him to flourish. Yep. I want our family to flourish.
Yep.
That's 1,000% good stuff.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Right? That's my longing. So then I look at it, take it all the way up, run it from ground all the way up. What was the outcome to try to get that longing? Freaking out on him, nearly abusive, yelling profanity, all this stuff, right?
Yep.
You brought on a real quality individual on your show, by the way. So all those things. So that's up here. The longing was so good. The outcome was so bad.
Yeah.
What was happening in the middle?
Right.
Right. And
where does it go wrong?
Yeah. It's going back to that belief in that fast thinking. This is all on me. You're making me look bad. Right?
Yeah.
Hand that over to true belief. My value is not tied up in a 12-year-old boy.
Right.
He has his own value.
Yep.
I am put here for a purpose.
Yeah.
To mentor, to guide, to discipline. Right.
Mm-hmm.
These are all true things. That's going to bring it down to, okay, I can provide flourishing for this guy by being the parent that does discipline out of love.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now what's the outcome going to be?
Yeah.
It's going to be a healthy conversation. It's going to be, it might be painful.
Yeah, it's probably going to be painful.
Sin has that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be done in love. It's going to be done in patience. It's going to be done with relationship. It's going to be, we're going to check back in with each other, right? There's no isolation. There's no shame, right? Because the longing was good. The feelings, even though they were screaming you're worthless, were taken over to truth. You are not, your value is not in this relationship. Your value is set before the foundation of the world, right?
Yeah.
And now you have the opportunity to speak into this life and bring flourishing. To get to that point requires discipline. That's the virtue, right?
Yeah.
Because if I have not up to that point dealt with that crap belief that my value is in what I do, or my value is in the quality of my kids.
Yeah.
If I haven't dealt with that, then every piece of information that comes in that lights that belief up is going to go crazy.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the Bible talks about like you work out your salvation with fear and trembling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, it is literally like work out, and fear there is phobia, and trembling is like quaking. Like this is the big deal.
Yeah.
Right. The stakes don't get higher than this. But what does the workout? I am convinced it's like how we use workout now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so I mentioned like I'm on this kind of losing some weight because I like to ski really hard.
Yeah.
I like to ski fast. I like bumps.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to blow a knee out.
Yeah.
Because I'm 40 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
And I'm not changing my behavior. Right.
Right.
So I can keep going down that road, and the outcome's very predictable.
Yep.
Or I can start working out.
Yeah.
Getting core strength up before I hit that bump run.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It is.
It's the same thing.
Yes, it is.
Like training our minds before the crazy hits.
Yep.
To say that, man, my mind's going to scream all that stuff.
Yep.
Right. But this is the truth.
Yep.
And then the more I do that, the easier it gets to get to the truth.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
It's cognitive memory. Like it's cognitive memory.
Well,
right?
I mean, you're literally creating neural pathways.
Literally.
That's literally what you're doing.
So rad.
Yeah. No, you're
rad.
You're carving out these little pathways, and as you use it more and more, your brain goes, "Oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm going to start to default to this to the point where that does become your default."
Yep.
And that's the hard part. I think it's interesting. You know, you talk about hiding, and it's so easy for us to do those behaviors. We're rewarded to do those behaviors now.
For sure.
Like everything we do on our phone is dopamine. Just I mean, that is
like little rats at a feeder.
Absolutely, man. Just constantly taking that hit of dopamine. Yeah. Like, I need to, work is rough right now. What am I gonna go check? I'm gonna go check whatever.
I deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. I need a break, so I'm gonna go over here. And it's we have turned into those rats, right?
Yeah.
Constantly going back and seeking that. And so what we've done is we've created this addiction, which in itself is that's our default now.
Yep.
When we've now defaulted to anytime we need something else, that's what we go to. And I find myself, it's interesting. I like the gym, and I have spent a lot of time working on developing that habit. I find that easier than breaking the other habits, the mental habits. The one of the things my neighbor is really good about doing this. He does breath work.
Yeah,
which is huge.
Yep.
And for me, I have a little bit of ADHD as well. So like I get squirreled all the time. I'm like, oh, wait, let me go do this, But when I do take those times to do breath, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes. And guys, like doing breath work for 5 minutes sounds like a lot. It is not.
It's not. It flies by.
There's a ton of different techniques.
Yeah.
Wim Hof is one I would recommend. Box breathing. Box breathing is used by special forces
and therapists.
The
grounding
absolutely.
exercise.
It's so good for you. But like it does, and it slows your mind
Slows down. Yep.
And it allows you to process things, and it puts your body in a completely different state. So to your point, we do need that time to slow down, get away from phones.
Yep.
That's why being outside is super important. We had him as a guest on here, Casey. He's my therapist friend, and he'll go, "This isn't real life." I'm like, "Oh no." And his point is like the houses that we live in, the artificial environment that we've created, that's not the real life that we were meant for.
Yeah.
And that has such detrimental consequences for us as individuals, and we're seeing it in society now. And that's, I mean, I look at myself, and it hurts me for myself and my family, because I know I'm doing things that are destructive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about virtue, and my hope is to continue diving into this topic, because I think our culture doesn't pursue that at all.
No.
Virtue is saying the correct political line. It is spouting the truth of the political party that you belong to.
Yeah.
That's virtue.
Yeah. It's almost changing the behavior of others around us.
Yeah.
Which I have no control over. Guaranteed frustration.
Yes.
But it keeps me going back to the same reel.
Yep.
Keeps me going back.
Yep.
I struggle with thinking this isn't like a nefarious plot, right? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it seems so perfectly designed. I don't know if it just accrued that over time or not.
Yeah.
But it is such a perfectly designed system. Like I can scroll reel after reel, TikTok after TikTok, and be so mad at everybody around me.
Oh yeah.
And that is the exact 180 degree wrong direction.
Yep.
Because what's so cool about Stoicism, right?
Yep.
And I think the gospel.
Yep.
What do you have control over?
Yourself.
That's
And
then what drives me crazy. So I work with guys on this exact topic, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't have control over anything except myself. I'm like, okay, think about that. Just stop and listen. Yeah. Accept yourself. So you're discounting that.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit. But if you got control over this one thing, your rage, right? Like I know a guy, he has had a history of just beating people up.
Yep.
A real strong sense of vengeance, and just has these fantasies. His fantasies are not sexual. His fantasies are violent, right? And so I'm like, okay, let's just talk about if you got control over this.
Yeah.
What would that impact? My kids.
Yep.
My wife.
Yep.
My job.
Yep.
My day. Yep. Keep me out of jail.
Everything.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything. And if that's going to have ripple all the way across.
Yeah.
Like what you have control over, guys, like stop saying just myself.
Love that.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Because your role I would say this is the heart of masculinity, your role as a protector and provider in whatever way that looks. Yep. I'm not just talking about financial or whatever.
No.
Protector and provider, you get your crap together.
Yep.
And I don't want to say this shaming.
Yep.
You do the work, you get the virtue.
Yep.
You start to change those neural pathways. It will radically change your home.
Yep.
It will put you in new relationships. Yep. You will develop new skills.
Yep.
This is going to sound all Jordan Peterson. You will get new opportunities.
Yep.
Right? It's the lobster. It's going to make your bed, right? All that jazz. Like, stop saying just.
I love that.
Stop it.
I love that because, something I think about is the way I relate to people. I view them as they are created by God. Mm-hmm. And that like colors the way I see people. Mm-hmm. And when you start to realize that you're created by God, you're created for something greater, like your impact, like you said, you have so much impact on everything around you. Yeah. And just by gaining control of yourself, I have found this recently. So I've been doing some coaching with a buddy of mine, and we haven't aired the episode, but we interviewed him here. And one of the things that's been really transformative for me is we're working through the Clifton Strength Finders.
Oh yeah.
So we're doing coaching around that stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff.
It is good stuff. And one of the things it focuses on is your strengths. Mm-hmm. And it tells you to focus on those strengths and to develop those, because those are really like part of who you are. Yeah. Like that's just how you operate. And for me, it's been really transformative because it's like, oh, these are my strengths. And this is kind of the core of like who I am and how I do things. Mm-hmm. It has changed how I approach my job. Mm-hmm. It's changed how I'm approaching my family. It's changing because I'm like, oh, these are my strengths. So this is how I'm supposed to relate to people. This is how I'm supposed to do my job. I for a long time have struggled with where I was at professionally. And, I went out and got a master's. I, was really trying to like climb the corporate ladder. You spoke about like the idea of like having letters. Mm-hmm. I work in the mental health field, man. Like everybody has like 6 letters minimum. Yeah. Like 2 degrees. Like I'm like the least educated person in any room. Yeah. And so, like I'm like, all right, I got these things. I'm trying to climb, and it's all meaningless to me because I'm not operating in who I am. Yeah. Right. And so when I start to like operate in like the way Tim operates, like my cousin has been encouraging me to like pursue programming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's fascinating. I've started learning some Python and all this stuff.
I use Python.
It's cool stuff,
It
right?
really
Like
cool.
I can appreciate it. But it's been a few months since we talked, and he texted me the other day, and he was asking, "Oh, how's that going? And where are you at with that? Are you still pursuing tech?" And like for the first time in my life, there wasn't like a guilt response. I'm like, "Oh crap, I haven't been doing that lately."
Mm-hmm.
Like, "Oh, I should be doing this." It was no. Actually, I had another opportunity and I took it, and there was a lot of like peace and confidence in that, knowing, oh, this is what I'm good at and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm taking control of myself, it changes the way I relate to everybody around me, which is beautiful.
And opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and
I love it. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So like real, like rubber meets the road there. Like for people listening, it is so important that we get ourselves under control and know ourselves. Like spending time to know yourself. One of the things I didn't realize, my whole job's relational. My whole job is building relationships with people. And so I naturally was like, well, of course I'm good at like, understanding people and understanding emotions and all these things. And then my buddy who I'm doing coaching with is like, well, tell me, like, what are you feeling right now? I'm like, what do you mean? What does that even mean? And he goes like, well, here's a feelings wheel.
Oh, I love it.
And honestly, like that to me, I was telling him literally 2 days ago, I go, I could probably define every one of those emotions on those feeling wheel. I don't know that I could pick that out if like you asked me how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so like going on that journey of knowing even just that component of myself, that's a huge part of gaining control. Because when you can go, oh, I'm feeling frightened right now.
Yeah.
Which I think for a lot of guys is one that I don't think any guy is going to say.
I'd say, and it's so foundational.
Absolutely. Like being able to address just that, because when you can address that, you can go, okay, I'm frightened. Well, why am I frightened? What does frightened mean? Okay, if it means this, what's causing me to feel this way? And then you can start working from there and start like fixing those things or changing those things. And that has a huge impact on, again, how you relate to others, how you view yourself.
Yeah. I love it. That's cool. And then feelings become something not to be either squished or ignored.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because the second you ignore it, it's like a toddler, man. It starts like banging down the doors. That's all you can, it just becomes obsessed. So squish it, ignore it, be super skeptical. I feel like religious guys do this too much.
Yeah.
Super skeptical.
Yeah.
Like, don't trust your feeling.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. But what you're describing is using your feelings as your dashboard lights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They come on. This means something.
Yep.
And if, as I've developed my habits of virtue and discipline, I can say, oh, this means this.
Yes.
My fear is my unmet need, my longing, my deepest longing, which is almost always good.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost.
Yep.
I guess there's be exceptions. But like with my kid, I wanted healthy relationship. That was my longing.
Yep.
Dashboard lights going off every which direction.
Yeah.
You ignore those and bad things happen, right? You throw a rod and you're out, on the side of the road.
That's right.
At best case scenario. So it brings like a whole new relationship with feelings. It's really powerful. What you just said. That feelings wheel is awesome. It's so good. Because everybody's like, I'm just mad. I'm just angry. Okay, that's the overarching.
Yeah.
Now let's go one
deeper.
Level. And it's hard, man. It is hard.
It is super hard.
This is so for anybody. I imagine your audience listening understands this to some degree, but I would propose there's no more rugged interior work to do than to what you described.
Yeah.
Understanding yourself for the purpose of redesigning your thinking.
Yes. You cannot gain
control. You are moving the furniture. You know?
You cannot gain control until you understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a bit like trying to stop a car and not knowing what anything does.
Yeah. And I would say that will require some work into why you came to that belief.
Yes.
And that is going to be part of your story.
Yeah.
That's going to be, there could be sexual trauma. There could be abuse. There could be just neglect. It could be okay, so I work with guys too that are like, story is a big part of the process, right?
Yeah.
So everybody tells their story. And so you might have some stories of like awful, horrific abuse, right?
Yep.
And then the next guy over feels like a dork because he's like, I mean, my parents were like, they stayed married.
Yeah.
They're pretty. And so then the traumatic event, and this gets overused, right? But I'm going to use the term traumatic event was, I was on a middle school football team and I thought I was doing really good. And my coach came in and like totally dogged me in front of the entire team.
Yep.
And then they're like, I feel like such a dork saying that because compared to this other story, right? Yep. And I understand that. Yep. But I'm like, when was the last time, besides you telling us now, when was the last time you thought about that event? Oh, like last week. How old are you? Yeah. I'm like 45.
Yeah.
When did that happen? I was 12.
Yeah.
Then it matters.
Yep.
Right? Because you are carrying that lie with you. Man. That's what matters. I don't care if it was trauma locked in a kitchen freezer.
Yep.
Or trauma you were demeaned by a teacher.
Yep.
I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care. Some will be harder to work through than others.
Yes.
And I don't want to equate them equally, but you're carrying that lie. Be singular focused on getting that lie taken care of.
I love that. I love that. Well, it's interesting because like in the behavioral health field, we talk a lot about big T traumas and little T traumas.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, you have the language for it.
Yeah, yeah.
I love it.
And so, right, like people will oftentimes go, well, I didn't go through this. And I always tell people, like, stop comparing. Like
so
to your point, how did it impact you?
Mm-hmm.
How is it currently impacting you? Like, that's what matters. This isn't a game of like, well, you win, you got more trauma than me. I'm actually fixed because you have more trauma. Yeah, exactly.
I propose it's a cop-out a lot of times.
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't. It wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
Right. So we take what's positive about a masculine trait, right?
Yep.
Toughness, mental toughness, even physical toughness.
Yes.
That can be a positive, and we turn it into a negative.
Yep.
So we take a feature, turn it into a bug. It's a dumb thing. I shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Dude, you are bailing on the work that you need to do for yourself, first of all, and everybody around you.
Dang.
So you're taking, okay, I have very, very, very short fuse towards the whole toxic masculinity thing.
Yeah,
right?
me too.
But if there is one valid point,
this
might be the only one. I don't know. I'm open to argument. It is that when guys do that, they take what is a positive trait, in their in masculine virtue,
and they make it negative,
and then we take it and make it negative out of our own bad thinking.
I would propose that, and I think that Matt has said
that
this.
we call it toxic masculinity.
Well, yeah. Well, I think on this for this show, like, I think we would just say that's not masculinity.
That's a way better.
That is not masculinity. That is falling short of being a man.
Yeah.
Like that, and that's not a oh, you need to be a man. There are things that are masculine, and that is not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's using the things that are gifts, using the things that are strengths, and in either avoiding them or using them incorrectly because here's the thing: when you use those strengths incorrectly, you destroy.
Mm-hmm.
You destroy the people around you. You destroy yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people are trying to get at when they say toxic masculinity, right?
It's just toxic.
It's just not being a man. As Matt said, you're just being a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to that point, it's like, and I think that's where we really need to, I think, dial in and go, okay, how do we raise guys to be men, right? So that they are not that they're not falling short. And really we're leaving our families, we're leaving women, we're leaving society in a bind because we are absent.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We're not showing up authentically.
Yes.
So with our actual gifts.
Yes.
Well, I mean, sometimes we're not showing up literally at all.
Yeah.
And we're leaving and bailing.
Yep.
But we're certainly not thriving. Like those are the two like baselines. Right? Show up.
Yep. Yeah. Just be here.
And have something to deliver.
Yeah.
Right? Have something to add.
Some sort of value.
Yeah. Like those are the baselines. And then we're not even near the thriving side. Right? Because we're just smoke screening everything. Right. And so, yeah, it's so critical. And now it takes a mistake. So let's go back to the grace part.
Yeah.
Right. It creates an opportunity from a mistake. I handled this conversation absolutely horribly, or I handled it in a way that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it got better. Maybe I didn't lose my complete mind.
Yep.
But I didn't handle it well. I got sarcastic. I got whatever. I don't have to go to shame. I know shame is a lie.
Yeah.
Like, that path is like covered over in weeds now, right? So I don't have to go to shame. I can go to, okay, let's just dissect this one.
Sure.
Let's just take this backwards a few steps. What was I trying to get? What was I trying to do? Okay, that's what it was. All right, that's where my thinking went off.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to come back. And I might need to make restitution. I might need to go apologize. I might need to just come back and say. And now you have you will 90% of the time have an even better relationship when someone's like, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
So within so you talked about like breath, breath exercises, breath prayers. Like I've been blown away by kind of just how ancient a lot of these things are.
Yes.
Right? And so there's Ignatian spirituality that does a daily examine. And so there's a morning examine, there's a noon one too, which I'm terrible at doing. But an evening is where you go through and you relive your day. And it could be 2 minutes, could be 5 minutes, could be 30 minutes. You relive your day. Where was God in my interactions?
Love it.
And then where was God? I won't say God not in my interactions because he's there, but where did I not handle it well?
Yeah.
Right. And then gives you an opportunity to just rethink.
Love
Okay.
that.
Where did my thinking kind of go off the rails?
So
it's both gratitude.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, gratitude is like a huge deal.
Yes.
So it's both gratitude and it's reflection.
Yeah.
And it's confession.
Yes.
And then you go to sleep.
Oh, that's so, man, that sounds so nice.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Like, and here's the thing, like,
as opposed to me.
Yeah.
It's time to go to bed.
Dude.
Like compare those two existences.
So much conviction in what you just said right there, because 2 nights ago, I was like, I need to go to bed. 2 hours later, oh sweet, I'm gonna get 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go to the gym. Now I'm gonna be tired for work.
That's a
now
good example. Just cascades.
It does, man. And it's one of those things where when we are allowing, things like the things that are dopamine seeking, when we allow that to be in the driver's seat, nothing good comes from that.
No.
Ever.
No. So we talk about dopamine, right? But as we retrain and we start to engage with people, we can actually now become there are other neurochemicals that we can really become attached to, right? Serotonin, I'm calm.
Yep.
Oxytocin, I'm connected.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Our whole society has zero understanding of what oxytocin is.
Yeah.
Like, we're not connected to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I could go off on like community, because that's a huge part, I think, of why guys aren't guys anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in community. We're not around. I mentioned, when you first got here, like it's so impactful for guys to hear other men's stories.
Yeah.
I think the reason that our masculinity has faltered in recent generations is because we don't have guys coming around young men and telling them the stories, telling them, hey, this is where I screwed up.
Yeah.
Hey, this is where you should watch out. Hey, I see you doing these things. Knock that crap off, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and it's because here's the thing, right? If you boil it down to, and I really try to think of like tribes, because there's such a simple social setting, right? Like, there's very minimal stuff going on. You don't have YouTube. You don't have, the things that you're dealing with are just so basic. And so, like, there's not all of this pretense around everything that you're doing. Everything you're doing is about survival. So you're not going to be, trying to lead guys astray. Like, it's so important that you teach these young men to be good at what they're doing, because otherwise you're not going to eat. Yeah, you're done. You're done.
Your genes are dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to fail. Your livelihood is dependent on them, and we've gotten so far away from that. And so now we go, well, I don't need to invest in, and so
true. Like,
I think the idea of oxytocin, right? That's us being connected to each other. I mean, how many people watching this? How many of you know your neighbors? Like, how many of you guys actually spend time with your neighbors? Not just, hey, Bob, how's it going? Oh, good. Have a good night. All right, peace. You know, like how many people, and that would be my challenge for everybody who watches this is how much do you know your neighbors? And I would challenge you to invite them over, to find reasons to get together. I've been super blessed to be in a neighborhood where we happen to have neighbors who have kids, all boys. Like, I'm not even kidding you, all boys. There's like 8 boys on our street that are all the same age, or roughly the same age. It's pretty nuts, but it has allowed, and that's helpful, right? But we have done 4th of July celebrations. We have done, we're getting ready. Halloween's next week. There's like 6 families that are going to get together, and we cook, we do a chili dinner. Like, everybody brings their own chili, and then we all go out with the kids and trick or treat. Mm-hmm. And we don't do it all the time, but probably 4, 5, 6 times a year, we find reasons to get together. Our neighbors, like our direct neighbors, we probably once a quarter will do some sort of themed dinner night. And it's never like we're planning, okay, this quarter we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. It's very much like I'll see Jim in the yard and be like, we'll be chatting, and then it'll be like, hey, like it just like earlier this year in September, it was, we were literally talking about different beers, and we were talking about like Oktoberfest and how it'd be fun, to go to like an actual Oktoberfest. And then he was like, well, we could just do our own. And so like we did, and it was just as spontaneous as that, but I think for people, my encouragement to you guys is be open to that opportunity. Yeah. Be willing to connect, because you will be surprised, at what that does for your life. When you came in tonight, I was actually talking with my neighbor's wife about their unfortunately, my neighbor's dad is getting ready to pass. Like, then this is pretty suddenly. And so we were just talking about, they have a bulldog, and we're going to help take care of him for a few days. Mm-hmm. And it's like, knowing that you have somebody next door who's just willing to go, hey, don't worry about it, dude. Just go take care of what you need to take care of. I got it covered. Like, and that's not that I'm not trying to say like, oh, look at what we're doing, but there's peace.
You're in an environment. Yeah. That's
right. And and I think that's a huge part of what the US as a whole is missing. Mm-hmm. That's a huge component of what's, I think, driving the divide between, political parties and individuals and communities. Sorry, I completely went off on tangent. You got to be talking about connection. And to your point, like, there's all these other chemicals that we were given to use positively that we're not using that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say like my story is not that. Like, I have friends who have that story. Yep. Like, I chose to live out in the Black Forest, and sometimes it is what it is. Yep. So not necessarily that, but take advantage of every opportunity. And I would say, like, to your point, take advantage of what's in front of you. Yep. But also, I do think there was a time when guys were more involved in community groups, right? So like even just like those fraternal clubs, like nobody does that anymore, right?
No.
And I would say the secularization of society has a drastic impact on the opportunity for connection. Yeah. Right. Church, like there's all sorts of reasons to go to church. One of them is it's one of the best ways to create community. We were around a common group. And also it's just a good way to set aside time to confront your false beliefs, right? You're not going to prove anything. You're not going to make yourself, you kind of are going to make yourself better. Okay. So I had this thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to the gym now, and it's become a real habit now. So it's really awesome. Cool. So I go in the morning, I'm like walking in, and I'm like, I was just thinking, I'm there at 6. So it's not like super early, but there's a lot of people here. Mm-hmm. Like, these people have shown up. I don't know what their motivation is. Yep. And I don't care. Yep. A lot of people have shown up to make their lives better. Yep. At a really inconvenient time. Yep. That's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Isn't that kind of cool? And I'm like walking through, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's kind of what church is, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of people saying, I cannot, and I don't want to do this on my own. Yeah. Right? It's an opportunity to reflect and connect.
Man.
So,
that's a good point.
so take wherever that might be.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And do it.
Connect. Yeah. Connect.
Because you can't do this. You can't do this in what we're doing in the basement. But you can't do this in the basement by yourself, right?
By yourself. You're here. Yeah. Mike's here.
Yeah.
Right. Like it takes all of us work. And to your point, like when you get in those settings, it's interesting that eventually, I think, if you allow it to, you allow some vulnerability or vulnerability. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with that word. Vulnerability. And all of a sudden you can have people speaking truth into your life.
Yeah.
Right? Which makes your life better. Because there are things that people see that you're not going to see at all. And they'll go, hey, by the way, did you know when you were doing this, you were actually in poor alignment? You're going to screw up your back if you keep doing that. Right? And that's just a simple example.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if we had that in all aspects of our life. Imagine if we had that in our work, in our marriage.
Yeah.
If you were to go to a group of guys who you can talk about some of your issues with, you're like, hey, my wife does this, this, and this. My wife and I went through a year of marriage mentoring. And so we met with an older couple who they're in their like late 50s, early 60s. And it was amazing. I did it because I was encouraged to do it by a buddy. But it was amazing to me, like the amount of truth that they spoke into our lives. Like they didn't walk the same story that we've walked. They haven't experienced the same challenges that we've experienced. But at the same time, like they were able to see things and go, hey, by the way, Tim, you're being stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. That's good. That's good. Well, so, okay, I guess, maybe this will be kind of my final question for you. When you're thinking about masculinity, what does that mean to you?
It means moving out into the world in true belief, true identity, with a seriousness, a steadfastness, and a purpose. So practically, there's this really cool notion in Christian theology around the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of this passed over phrase. So when you talk about like breath work, there's this notion of breath prayers where we can take a statement and just use it as breath work, like inhale, exhale. And so I've been using like the first few lines of the Lord's Prayer.
That's cool.
And our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. So there's this link, there's this liminal space between what the truth is of heaven, right? What the truth is, spiritual truth, and what's happening in the physical, like the horizontal, right?
Yeah.
And so this space where they overlap is where I want to live authentically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so God gives me the opportunity to bring my authentic, healthy self into every spot that I come into, right? So at work, working with principals who are like stressed out.
Yep.
My scores suck.
Yep.
I got the superintendent breathing out of my neck. What do we do? Come in and speak to that. I can speak with my kids. And having older kids now, like it's really interesting to do. Like that's a whole nother dynamic with my wife. What I envision living out of true belief with authenticity, my authentic self, with purpose and deliberateness. God has given me the opportunity to have a little island of the kingdom that I walk into the world with.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And as a man, that is I would propose that's the ultimate human existence, right? But as a man, we know those roles are different. We know those opportunities are different. Yeah. And I want to live in those opportunities.
I love that.
So
That's
I'm
really
not just heading the sky, hoping for the best.
Yep.
Someday this will all work out. God, I hate that notion. I hate it. I get it. I understand, right?
Yeah.
But it's so worthless. Someday this will all work out.
Yeah.
Someday I'll be able to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop it. Or I'm just a mess. Nothing's going to happen. Like both are false.
It's
like
true.
we're being called to live in this space in between. and to bring who I really am,
Yeah.
faults and strengths,
Yep.
to bear, but with deliberate purpose.
Yeah.
I know who I am. I know what I'm about.
Yep.
I know why I'm in this space.
Oh,
That's what being a man is.
I love that. That's because as I think about it, like for me, a big part of my story is just not knowing who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to live authentically if you don't know who you are.
It's impossible. Because then I'm trying to get it from you.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? And so now it's constant triangulation. Like, are you liking me?
Yeah.
Are you not liking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the smallest thing becomes a slight.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. You're walking on pins and needles.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, you just hit the head right there on why people typically don't. Everyone else kind of,
There you go. I didn't even have to tell you. I'm so proud of you, Michael.
Everyone else gets their identity from external sources, right?
Yeah.
They externalize it. They say, okay, what Tim thinks of me has to validate who I am. That's what it is. Or what my job title is has to validate him. How many initials I have after my name validates it. That's what gives me value. And you guys are both saying it the whole time. It's like, to really get away from that, you have to sit and reflect and then determine what is important to you and who you are. And then that's what detaches you from that external, right?
Yeah.
That's what internalizes everything in your motivations and what makes all this possible.
Yeah.
So.
That's actually a piece of the examine is in the morning is to ask God, help me to bring the kingdom to bear in real ways. I have no idea how that looks, right?
Yeah.
But help me to move through my day in a way that I have that as my primary objective.
Yeah.
How can I bring, and what's crazy, so going back to Genesis, right? So the kingdom, the picture of Eden is the picture of the kingdom, right? And so then you have all these pictures throughout scripture of this kingdom, right? So the ark, the tabernacle, like all these pictures, so rad. Yeah. And then like, in Christian thought, then Jesus fulfills that ultimately for us, right? And so now we carry that and we move that out. So we are literally, well, not literally, I guess, I mean, a metaphor, I don't know, but we are bringing Eden to bear for ourselves and other people.
Well,
come on. Like how much better does that get?
Yeah, no, that's all. Well, and so what Jesus has done is restored the Edenic ideal.
Yeah,
that's to me that thought has blown my mind. That it's not the restoration of the pain. It's not the payment. It's not the yes, that's part of it. But it's the restoration of the Edenic ideal.
That was the means.
Yeah. Like that, it's that relationship is now restored.
Yeah. No shame.
Yeah.
No lack. No false belief. Full relationship.
Yeah.
Thriving.
Yep.
Abundance.
Yep.
Come on. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Well, and man, we could do, oh my gosh, it could be a whole nother talk, but those pieces in and of themselves, I mean, when you can live that way, it's amazing how much value you bring to those around you.
Yeah.
Right? Because you live in that belief.
Yeah.
And I love that you immediately started talking about beliefs, because I think that it's very easy to vocalize things and say, I believe this, I believe this, I believe this, but your actions always show what you truly believe. And so as you were, talking about the interaction with your son in that moment, it's very convicting for me, because it's like I'm starting to re-examine, like, okay, well, what do I believe? What do I believe? I think about the way I interact with my kids, the way I interact with my wife. What does that say about what I actually believe?
Yeah.
Because I have these principles that I say I believe, but how much of that is like 100% what I really believe?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can want to believe it.
Yes.
You can want this to be the ideal, but it doesn't become the ideal because I haven't done the training.
Yeah, that's so good. It all takes work. I think that's the piece that nobody wants to hear, is because people ask me like, well, what do you do? Like, what is your, workout regimen or whatever? And it's always like, I'm always like, get up early. I go 4 to 5 days a week, period.
Yeah.
Like there's no stop to that. There is no,
you have to start loving the process.
Yeah.
Like it can't stay a burden.
Well,
and you have to start at some point.
Yes.
And I always talk to my boys about this. The mark of a professional is that you're going to have, like, the nature of work is it's repetitive.
Yeah.
A professional loves the process and is always refining the process. So if you're a trim carpenter, you're putting in trim. You're cranking through trim.
Yeah.
But you are always looking for that one quicker step to perfection.
Yeah.
And you look for it to do it perfectly every time. And you love that process, right?
So good.
It's not the paycheck. I mean, the paycheck certainly helps.
It helps.
The job, the whatever, it is you kind of just now groove with the process.
That resonates so much with me because and in part because I'm now understanding more of who I am and like what my strengths are. Right now, my job is, so I'm a national rep. A lot of my job, because I'm based in Colorado and I cover the US, is sending emails and making phone calls all day.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you know, I'm looking through Salesforce and I'll, you know, be looking through accounts and, oh, hey, cool. All the information that I have in this account is wrong. So now I got to go to Google and like find all of that. And half the time I end up calling through these horrible phone systems to try and get a hold of somebody who doesn't know anything anyway.
Yeah.
But my point, like you say that, and for the first time really in my career, there has started to become a appreciation for the process. And like, I'm not, while I don't love everything about it, I'm like, no, this is what I'm doing. Like I'm starting to enjoy the grind of it because I know the benefits of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like working out is the easiest example, right? You start to see the benefits. And so that's where the enjoyment comes from. Yeah. It doesn't come from going and doing the actual piece because when you're in the middle of a set and you're out of breath and you want to die, like that is not enjoyment, right? But then you see the results and you're like, oh shoot, I love this.
Yeah.
And I want to keep doing this because I see what it gives me or what it produces and that, I mean, that's tied directly into neurochemicals.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's all a process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing too. I mean, it's just, we could go for, we have gone for hours, but, like, I think also church sells us short in making it purely a spiritual thing. Right. And that's where I get so annoyed with, well, someday this will all be over.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
Yeah.
This allows it to be tangible. Right? And I think guys need that. I need
that.
Like I could sit here and pray, Jesus, take this from me. I don't know.
Yep.
And it's like, bro, let's just start examining your thinking first. Like, let's start this. It's things that I can do in the morning. Gratefulness. Here's how I want to move through my day. Give me opportunities to move through my day like this. In the evening, did I move through my day the way I wanted to? Here I did. That was pretty cool. Yeah, this was a great conversation. This was terrible. Right?
Yeah.
The next day, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety about this meeting coming up. Why is that? How do I want to, like, it's reps, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's so, it doesn't demean the fact that it is a spiritual connection.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But it is just as much a physical connection.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah.
It's retraining our brain, taking every thought captive, like scripture says, working out our salvation with fear and trembling, while at the same time rewiring and getting more and more used to new neurochemicals hitting our system. All of it can be equally true at the same time.
Yep. Well, and it's interesting. So you mentioned gratitude. I was just thinking about it. It's like, that's the payoff. Like if you don't stop and take stock of like the things that are actually like successful, that would be like going to the gym and never seeing results.
Yeah.
Why would you keep going? Yeah. Like there would literally be no point. But when you stop and go, I'm grateful for this, and this is where I succeeded, that can give you the motivation to keep doing it. I think personally, I get caught up in the, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is like, I don't feel like I've done anything.
Yeah, we have a neural pathway naturally. Confirmation bias and negativity bias.
Yeah,
like that's our natural way of thinking.
True.
I mean, it got us through the saber-toothed tiger phase pretty well, right? Like we survived the ice age.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
But it's not serving us super well right now.
It falls under the maladaptive coping mechanism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah, gratitude is a huge piece, but then also just planning out, like, how can I live deliberately? Because I think, guys, man, I don't know, guys, we're just not super deliberate.
No.
I think the female mind has. I mean, it's all like the degree to which you're living in health.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
There's screwed up ways of living in every side, but we just kind of bounce, man. We just bounce through stuff. Don't give it much thought.
Yeah.
Don't give it much.
I think, I mean, shoot, we've decided that we're going to be surfers. We're just going to ride whatever wave is going on, and we're just going to hang out.
Yeah.
And, I think that has not led us to good things right now.
Yeah.
Right. We've let down our families. We've let down society by not showing up in an authentic way.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do, because we're going to face challenges. We're going to face opposition, right? There are going to be people who don't appreciate our authenticness, right? They want us to get in line. They want us to not be so Dave, Tim, Mike, right? Like that's what they want.
Yeah.
And for us to like show up that every day, I think that it takes work.
Yeah, it does. That's what makes it worth it.
I love it. Well, shoot, man, this has been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I
appreciate it.
I know we've kind of gone all over the place a little bit, but you've left me with so many things to continue thinking on.
Cool. Same.
I really appreciate it, and it's so cool to see. Well, I don't know, man. It's awesome because you're an example of, no matter how old you are, no matter how long your relationships, like there's so much to give. Like we all have so much to give and so much to bring, so much value to bring to society that we can't stop.
Yeah. No. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Like tell every one of your listeners, you have something that the world needs.
Yeah.
But not on your terms, man.
No.
Not on your natural thinking. Like, take the time, do the work to get it in line with what your truth is. Not what is screaming in your quick thinking side, what the truth is, and then step into the world boldly. Like, great things are going to happen, man.
I love that. Well, shoot, man, I can't think of a better spot to leave off. Dude, thank you so much for being on here, man.
Oh, yeah.
This is so much fun. We'll have to have you on again, because I think there's lots more to talk about.
I'd love to do that.
Guys, really, thank you guys for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. Leave comments. Let us know what you guys think about what we're doing. If you guys want to weigh in on what Dave or myself or Mike or anybody else has said, we appreciate it. We want to at least hear you guys. We might not always agree, but
hopefully not.
Well, actually. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. What a boring world if we all agreed. Yeah. Like that would be, I couldn't think of a worse place to be in than if we were in an echo chamber.
Yeah. But now, since my value doesn't depend on what you think of me, we can agree, we can disagree healthily.
Absolutely.
So it all comes together.
Bam. Boom. I love it. I love it. Guys, thank you for joining us on Beyond the Beard. I hope you guys take away something great from here. But until next time, guys, journey well.
Thanks.
When this silent, you'll be alone, far from friends in life. You'll spend your evenings getting stoned to numb the ache inside.